Hey everyone, today we're going to be working on another loops and threads crochet kit. These are really nice kits. They have almost everything that you need except for a stitch marker. I paid $10 for this at my local Michael's. We're going to go ahead and get started on Simon's head. Okay, so I'm all set up now. This is the written pattern for the head. I'm not sure why they want us to do a chain 3 just to make a magic ring. I'd rather just do a magic ring and do the 6 single crochets. It's going to come out exactly the same. It's just going to make a little bit easier of a circle easier for me. You're welcome to do it this way, but I'm going to do a magic ring. So I have my brown yarn here. I also have my stitch marker. This is very important stitch marker. Make sure you're using this, that way we're not doing too many stitches. And the crochet hook that's included in the kit. So we're going to start off by making a magic ring. So wrapping the yarn around our fingers, making that X on the top, going under the first one, over the second one, pull it through, twist clockwise, grab our working thread, and pull it through. And that makes our magic ring. So now we're going to do 6 single crochets into the magic ring. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3. So now we have our first 3 stitches here. So we have our first 3 single crochets, and into this first stitch we're going to place our stitch marker so we don't lose track. We're going to do 3 more single crochets. So 4, 5, and 6. Just like that. So now that we have our 6 single crochets in our magic ring, with our tail, the short piece, we're going to pull it down to tighten a circle down. Nice and snug. And now it kind of looks like this. So now to connect these first and last stitches, we need to do a slip stitch. So we're going to move that stitch marker out of the way, and into the first stitch we're going to put our hook through both the loops, yarn over, pull through, and pull all the way through, and that's what's a slip stitch. So now we have 6 stitches here. To get started for round 2, we're going to do a chain 1. And then for round 2, we're going to do 2 single crochets in each stitch. Into the stitch that we put our slip stitch in is our first stitch. So we're going to do 2 single crochets in the same. So put your hook through that stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. That's 1 single crochet. And do the same thing, 2 single crochets. So get our stitch marker. We're going to place it right here. I'm going to do one more with you guys. So put through, pull through, and then put through and pull through. Just like that. So we're doing 2 single crochets in each stitch. And when you're doing it, you'll be able to tell that there's 2 different loops into that stitch to make sure that you're doing 2. Finish my single crochets for round 2. I have a total of 12 single crochets. At the end of each round we're doing a slip stitch and then a chain 1. So we're going to take this stitch marker out of the way, and we're slip stitching into the first stitch of this round, put through and pull all the way through. Now that is securing round 2. We're going to chain 1, getting ready for round 3. So round 3 is going to be a single crochet in one stitch and then 2 single crochets in the same stitch. We're going to repeat that sequence 6 times. So we're going to do 1 single crochet into the same stitch that we slip stitched into. So 1 single crochet, and then we're going to do 2 single crochets in the next stitch, making an increase. 1 and 2. Just like that. So we're going to put our stitch marker in before we get carried away. And then we're going to do it again one more time with you guys. So we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next stitch, and then 2 single crochets in the next stitch. So 1 and 2. You're going to repeat this 4 more times, and then you should be back at the stitch marker here. I'll meet you guys back to do the slip stitch and chain 1, getting ready for round 4. At the end of round 3, you'll have 18 stitches. Alright, so we finished round 3. We're going to do our slip stitch. I have a total of 18 stitches. Make sure to take the time to count your stitches in between your rounds to make sure that you're doing it correctly. It's easy to lose track. So into the first stitch here, we're going to do our slip stitch. And then we're going to do a chain 1, getting ready for round 4. And for round 4, you're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches and then an increase, and repeat that 6 times. I'll do the first couple ones with you. So we're going to do 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets, and then an increase of 2 single crochets in the same stitch. So 1 and 2. And we have now a total of 4 single crochets here. You got 1, 2, 3, 4. Put your stitch marker here in the first one and repeat the same sequence again. So 1 single crochet in 2 stitches. So 1 and 2. And then 2 single crochets in the same stitch to make an increase. So 1 and 2. So you're going to repeat this 4 more times. At the end of round 4, you're going to have a total of 24 stitches. Alright, so we finished round 4. We're doing our slip stitch and chain 1 to get ready for round 5. So slip stitch into the first stitch of this round. Like that, and do our chain 1. Now we're ready for round 5. Round 5 is 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches and then an increase. So we're going to do 1 single crochet into the same stitch we did our slip stitch, and then 2 and 3. And then we're going to do an increase into the 4th stitch, so 1 and 2. So now we have a total of 5 stitches here. Find our stitch marker, it kind of ran off. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Put our stitch marker here in the front. We're going to do the same sequence again. So 1 single crochet, 1, 2, 3, and then 1 and 2 into the same stitch. You're going to repeat this 4 more times. I'll meet you guys back at the end. At the end of round 5, you're going to have a total of 30 stitches. I finished my round 5. You can really start seeing the chain 1 space starting to form here in the middle. This is just us attaching the 2 parts together at the end of each round with the chain 1. So we're going to do our slip stitch and chain 1 for round 5. So we're going to do our slip stitch into the first stitch of the round, just like that, and then we're going to do our chain 1, getting ready for round 6. So for round 6, we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches and then an increase. Only slightly repetitive, but that's okay. So into the same stitch that we did our slip stitch in, we're going to do our first single crochet, 2 single crochets, this one, and the 4th one. And now we're going to do an increase of 2 single crochets in the next stitch. So 1 and 2. So now we have our 6 single crochets. Get that stitch marker. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Put our stitch marker here in the first one. And let's do the sequence again. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then an increase of 2. So 1 and 2 into the same stitch. You're going to repeat this 4 more times. At the end of round 6, we're going to have 36 stitches. Okay, so I finished my round 6. So we're going to do our slip stitch here into the front. And do a chain 1, getting ready for round 7. For round 7, we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 5 stitches and then an increase. So doing our first single crochet into the slip stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we're going to do an increase. 1 and 2. So we have 7 stitches. I'm going to place our stitch marker here at our first stitch. And then we're going to repeat the same sequence. So 1 single crochet in the first 5 stitches. And then 2 single crochets in the same stitch. So we're going to repeat the same sequence of 1 single crochet in the first 5 and then an increase of 2 in the same stitch all the way around. At the end of the round 7, you're going to have a total of 42 stitches. Alright, so we finished round 7. We have a total of 42 stitches. You're welcome to take the time to measure this. They say it should be 2 3/4 inches wide. If you want to make sure that it's going to turn out the same size as the description on the box. Mine's about 2.5 inches wide right now. It all depends on how tight you're doing your stitches. A little bit smaller is going to be okay. So now we're going to do our slip stitch and chain 1, getting ready for round 8. So slip stitch into the first stitch of that round. There we go. And do our chain 1. Now we're ready for round 8. So round 8 through 14 is just 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around with a slip stitch and a chain 1 in between. So I'm going to show you round 8 and then I'll leave you to do rounds 9 through 14 on your own. So into the same stitch that we did our slip stitch, we're going to do our first single crochet. And we're just doing 1 single crochet in each stitch. So I normally do about 3 or 4 stitches and then I'm going to pause to put in my stitch marker. That keeps running all over my desk. So now we have our 4 stitches here. Put this into our first stitch and keep going. So I'll meet you guys back when I have the slip stitch and the chain 1 to do. Alright, so we've finished all the stitches for round 8. I have 42 stitches. So in between each of your single crochet rounds from 8 to 14, you need to do a slip stitch round. So a slip stitch into the first stitch of that round, like we have been doing. and then we're doing a chain 1. You make sure that you're doing this in between each round, and then you're going to do your single crochets and then do your slip stitch and your chain 1. Don't forget to do that, and make sure that you're placing your stitch marker in each of your rounds. So I'm going to go ahead and do rounds 9 through 14, 1 single crochet in each stitch. You should continuously have 42 stitches, and you'll start to see that this is going to get a little bit thicker, forming a rounded head. So make sure you take time to count your stitches, place your stitch markers, and do your slip stitch and your chain 1 in between each round. So we finished our rounds 8 through 14. You want to make sure to take the time to count each one of your rows along the side. Make sure that you have 14. Once you're sure of that, we're going to get ready to do round 15 with our slip stitch and chain 1. So slip into that first stitch of round 14 and do our chain 1. For round 15, we're going to be doing 5 single crochets and 2 stitches together to make the decrease. So kind of the opposite of what we were doing before. So now we have the biggest part of the head. Now we're going to start making the head smaller so it'll be more round. So we're going to start off with 5 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now we're going to do a decrease right after we put our stitch marker back down. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put your stitch marker in, and now let's do our decrease. So into the next available stitch here, which is our 6th stitch, we're going to put it into the next available stitch, yarn over, pull through. Now we have 2 loops on our hook. Put into the next available stitch, yarn over, pull through. Now we have 3 loops on our hook. So we're going to yarn over and pull through all 3, and that's a decrease. So we're going to go ahead and do it one more time. So we're going to do 5 single crochets. So making sure that when you're going into the next stitch, this stitch right here, that's your decrease. This is your next available stitch. So we do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then now we're going to do that decrease again together. So into the next available stitch, you're going to put your hook through, grab your yarn, pull it through, 2 loops. Next stitch, grab your yarn, pull through, 3 loops. Yarn over, pull through all 3 loops, and that's our decrease. We're going to repeat this 4 more times for a total of 6 times. At the end of this round, you're going to have a total of 36 stitches. Alright, so we finished our round 15. We're going to do our slip stitch and our chain 1. So slip stitch into the first stitch of the round and do our chain 1. So now we're ready for round 16. Round 16 is 4 single crochets and then a decrease. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to do a decrease. So into our next stitch, we're going to go in, pull through, 2 loops. Next stitch, go in, pull through, 3 loops. Yarn over, pull through all 3, and that's our decrease. We have a total of 5 stitches. Grab your stitch marker. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Place your stitch marker here in the first stitch, and you're going to do the same sequence again. So 4 single crochets, 2, 3, and 4, and then a decrease. So into the next stitch, put in, pull through, next stitch, put in, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3, and that's our decrease. We're going to repeat this 4 more times. At the end of round 16, we'll have a total of 30 stitches. Alright, so we finished our round 16. We're going to do the same thing like we've been doing before. Our slip stitch and chain 1. So we'll put into here to the first stitch. We're going to do our slip stitch and chain 1. So round 17 is going to be 3 single crochets and a decrease. So we got 1, 2, and 3, and then a wonderful decrease. We're going to do into the next stitch, pull through, into the next stitch, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. Let's do it again. So we do 1, 2, and 3, and we're going to do a decrease again. So into our next stitch, put in, pull through, put in, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. You're going to repeat this 4 more times for a total of 6 times, and at the end of round 17 you're going to have 24 stitches. Okay, so we finished our round 16. We had 30 stitches at the end. I'm going to take out my stitch marker and we're going to do our slip stitch into the first stitch of that round with our chain 1. Getting ready for round 17, we're going to do 3 single crochets. So 1, 2, and 3. We're going to grab that stitch marker. So we have 1, 2, and 3. Put your stitch marker in. And now we got to do a decrease. So we're going to go into the next stitch, pull through, into the next stitch, pull through 3 loops, yarn over, pull through all 3. We're going to do it one more time. So we're going to do 3 single crochets and a decrease. So 1, 2, and 3, and then we're going to do a decrease. So into the next stitch, put through, pull through, into the next stitch, put through, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. So you're going to repeat this 4 more times. At the end of round 17, you're going to have a total of 24 stitches. Alright, so I finished my round 17. I have 24 stitches. So we're going to do our slip stitch into the first stitch of that round, along with our chain 1. Now we're ready for round 18. And round 18 is going to be 2 single crochets and a decrease. So we do 1, 2, and then we're going to do a decrease. So into the next stitch, pull through, into the next stitch, pull through 3 loops, yarn over, pull through all 3. We have 3 stitches here, so we have 1, 2, and 3. We're going to place our stitch marker here in the first stitch, and we're going to repeat this again. So we're going to do 1 and 2 single crochets, and then we're going to do a decrease. So into the next stitch, pull through, into the next stitch, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. So we're going to repeat that 4 more times for a total of 6 times. At the end of round 18, you're going to have 18 stitches. Alright, so I finished my round 18. This is what he looks like so far. This is the back where the seam is, where we have done all of our chain 1 and slip stitch spaces. So now that we finished round 18, we're going to do rounds 19 and 20, which are the same. So we're going to do our slip stitch here, into the first stitch of the round with a chain 1, and then we're going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around. So we'll do the first 4 together, 3 and 4, and we're going to get our stitch marker here. So we've done 1, 2, 3, 4. Place our stitch marker here in the first one. Continue doing this for rounds 19 and 20 with 1 single crochet in each stitch. You're going to have a total of 18 stitches, and in between rows 19 and 20, don't forget to do your slip stitch and your chain 1. I'll meet you guys back at the end of 20. Okay, so finished up my rounds 19 and 20. I'm going to take my stitch marker out. We're going to do a slip stitch and chain 1 to fasten this off, because we have finished the head. So slip stitch into the first stitch of the round, pull through, chain 1, and we're going to just pull it up. I would say, I don't know, it's about that much for sewing. If we need more, we can get some more later. So we get our scissors. Once we have our scissors, we're going to cut this, pull it through, all the way through. And when you pull it down through like that, that secures the knot. It's not going to be able to come undone. So it's running away from me. This is what our head looks like. We're going to get started on the face. This is the written pattern for the face. So I did a little bit of head off camera, and rounds 3 and 4 don't make any sense to me. I can't figure out what they meant by this when they wrote the pattern. So I adjusted it so that it would still work with the numbers that they have. And I'll show you guys what I changed on round 3 and 4. I'll make sure to put it on the screen while we're doing the crochet. So we're going to get started with round 1, starting with our white yarn, and we're going to do a chain of 5. A slip stitch. So I just grab this yarn, I twist it here, and then I use this finger to pull our working yarn through. We're going to get this on our hook, and we're going to do a chain of 5. I like to keep my chains just a little tight. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, and 5. So we have chains 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The next part of the pattern says that into the second hook from the chain, your second chain from the hook, you're going to do 2 single crochets. So we have 1, 2, 3, and this is our second chain. There's one here. We're going to do 2 single crochets into this second chain. So 1 single crochet and 2 single crochets into the same stitch. So now we have 3 chains left to work into. So into the next 2 chains, we're going to do 1 single crochet. So 1 and 2. Making sure to keep this nice and snug so that it looks good. I have 1 more chain to work into, and in this last chain they want you to do 4 single crochets into this last chain. Keeping it snug, we're going to do 4 single crochets into this last chain. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is kind of starting to turn itself. So if yours is still sitting like this, you're going to rotate it upward, because now we're going to be working into the other bottom side of the original chain that we did. So after we did our 4 single crochets into that last chain, we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 2 loops, So into the next one here. So you see how here this was our fourth, and then we have 1, 2, and 3. So right here, I'm going to do 1 single crochet, and then into the next set of loops we're going to do another single crochet. So we worked into those 2 loops, and then 2 single crochets into the next, and they're using the beginning single crochet that we had put in at the beginning of the round. That's the one they want you to work into. So going into this beginning single crochet right here, making sure to go through both loops. You go in and we're going to do 2 single crochets into this stitch. And this is what we have so far. And we're going to do a slip stitch into the next stitch. Do our slip stitch and our chain 1. So now we're ready for round 2, and this is what we have so far. So we're going to keep it like this, and let's get started with that round 2. So the round 2 starts off with an increase. So into the same stitch that we did our slip stitch, we're doing an increase of 2 single crochets. So we have 1 and 2, and then we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So now we have a total of 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches here. We're going to place our stitch marker here at the beginning. And then now that we did our 4th, we're going to do an increase into the next. So 1 and 2 into the same stitch. This is what we got going on so far. This hole here is from us doing that chain 4. Now that we finished doing our increase, we're going to repeat the same sequence one more time. So we're going to do an increase. So 1, 2 into the same, and then do 4 stitches. So 1, 2. Okay, so I did my last 4 single crochets, and then to my last stitch here, this is where I'm going to put my increase. Mine's a little tight, it's kind of hard to get into. And 1 more. There we go. We're going to slip stitch into that first stitch of the round. And do our chain 1. So now we're ready for round 3. Here on round 2, we should have a total of 16 stitches all the way around. This is what we got looking like so far. Round 3, I changed what they originally stated. You're welcome to do it their way, where they say that they want to do a single crochet and increase a single crochet into the next 5 stitch and then do an increase. I tried it a few different ways. I couldn't get it to work out. It wouldn't come out to 20 stitches. So I don't know what they meant to do here, and I couldn't figure out anything online about it, so we changed it. The changed one is going to be, once you've done your chain 1, we're ready for round 3, and now we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitch and then an increase. So we're going to do into the same stitch that we did our slip stitch in. We're going to do 1 single crochet, and then the next 2 and 3, and now we're going to do an increase. So 1 and 2. So we have a total of 5 stitches so far. We're going to grab our stitch marker that I have misplaced. Got our stitch marker here, and we're going to repeat that same sequence of 1 single crochet in 3 and then an increase. We're going to do that 3 more times for a total of 4 times, and we'll have 20 stitches at the end. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, and then an increase. 1 and 2. This is what I have so far. Go ahead and do that 2 more times, and I'll meet you guys back. And if any of you guys know what they originally meant in the original pattern, feel free to put it in the comments below, because I could not figure it out. Alright, so I finished my round 3. I have a total of 20 stitches. We're going to do our slip stitch and chain 1. So slip stitch here and do our chain 1. We're ready for round 4. So round 4, I also changed. We're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches and then do an increase, and repeat that 4 times. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we're going to do our increase. So 1 and 2 into the same stitch. So we have a total of 6 so far. Put your stitch marker here in the front. And then we're going to do the same sequence 3 more times. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to do an increase. So 1 and 2. Alright, so you're going to keep doing this 2 more times, and I'll meet you guys back at the end. Alright, so I finished round 4. I have 24 stitches. We're going to go ahead and do our slip stitch into the first stitch of the round and a chain 1. Now we're ready for round 5. And so for round 5, we're going back to the original pattern that they had. And in their original pattern, they have you doing 1 single crochet in the next 3, and then an increase with a single crochet in the next 7, and then an increase. So we're going to do 1, 2, and 3. We're going to do an increase into the 4th stitch, so 1 and 2. So we have 5 total stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Place our stitch marker here just so that we don't lose track. And then we're going to do 7 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 7. So now we're going to do an increase. So we have 1 and 2. And we're going to do the same sequence one more time. So 3 single crochets, an increase, 7 single crochets, and an increase. And I'll meet you guys back to do the slip stitch and chain 1. Alright, so this is our round 5. Not too bad here. We're going to do our slip stitch and our chain 1. I have 28 stitches at the end of round 5. So slip stitch into the first stitch of this round and a chain 1. Now we're ready for round 6. Round 6 is 2 single crochets and then an increase with 8 single crochets and an increase with a single crochet in the next 2 stitches after that. So we'll start off with 2 single crochets, 1 and 2, and then we're going to do an increase. So 1 and 2. So we got 4 stitches here. Place your stitch marker. After the increase, we're going to do 8 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, my goodness, and 8. Alright, now that we have our 8, we're going to do an increase again. So 1 and 2. And then for the last part of this sequence, we're going to do 1 single crochet and 2 stitches. So 1 and 2. So that's the first part of the sequence. They want you to repeat that same sequence again. So you're going to do 1 single crochet and 2 stitches with an increase, 1 single crochet in the next 8 stitches, and then an increase, and then 1 single crochet and 2 stitches. I'll meet you guys back at the end of the round to do our slip stitch and chain 1. At the end of this round, you'll have 32 stitches. Alright, so we finished round 6. I have 32 stitches. It's got a nice face pet shape. It's a little domed here in the middle, but once we stitch it down onto the head when it's all stuffed, it's going to lay down pretty flat. It won't be as noticeable. So we're going to do our slip stitch and a chain 1. And we're going to do the last round, round 7. And we're going to do a single crochet in the next 5 stitches. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to do an increase. So 1 and 2. Oops. There we go. So we got 7 stitches here. So place your stitch marker into your first stitch of that round. We continue with the sequence. The next part is 9 single crochets. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then we're going to do an increase. So 1 and 2. Alright, we're going to do that exact same sequence one more time. So you're going to do 5 single crochets, an increase, 9 single crochets, and then an increase. And I'll meet you guys back to do the last slip stitch with a chain 1 and cut. At the end of round 7, you're going to have 36 stitches. Do our slip stitch and chain 1. So slip stitch into the first stitch of the round, like that. Chain 1. Now we don't want to pull up too much, we only need a little bit. Our face over here, this is going to be the front. Not that it has any stuffing in it yet, but this will give you an idea of what it's going to look like. Alright, so getting started with the nose, I got my dark brown yarn. Now, they are doing the chain method with single crochets. I don't like that method because it tends to leave a really big gap. So I'm going to go for doing a magic circle with 4 single crochets in it, and then do a round 2 of 2 single crochets in each stitch to make 8. I prefer to do the magic circle, but you're welcome to do it this way or the way that I'm doing it. I'll have both options in the description box. So we're going to grab our yarn, make our magic circle. So wrapping it around our fingers, over and cross, go under the first, over the second, twist it clockwise, grab our yarn, twist counterclockwise and pull it through. Now that we got that set up, we're going to do 4 single crochets into the circle. So we're going to do 1, 2, 'make this a little smaller, 3, and 4. Just like that. We're going to pull our tail tight. This makes it really small. It can be a little difficult to see. So put it through the first stitch, pull through, and then pull all the way through. Now that we have that, we're going to do our chain 1. Now we're going to do round 2, which is going to be 2 single crochets in each stitch. So 1, 2, that first stitch goes into the same stitch that we did our slip stitch in. It's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 and 8. So now that we did that, we're going to slip stitch these together. Just like that. And it still makes that same nose shape that they were going after, except for now we just don't have this giant gap in the middle as when you do the chain 2 with the 4 single crochets into a chain. So we're going to do a chain 1 and cut. So chain 1, we don't need a massive tail, but just a little bit, just like that. Alright, so this is his finished nose. Let's go ahead and get set up and get started on his eyes. Alright, so we're going to get started with the eyes. This is the written pattern for the eyes. We have our dark brown yarn, and we're going to get started with a chain 3. So grab your yarn, make a slip knot, and then we're going to do a chain 3. So we have a chain 1, a chain 2, and a chain 3. Into the second chain from the hook, we're going to do a single crochet, just 1, And into the next chain, we're going to do 3 single crochets. So 1, 2, and 3. So it's kind of curving up again, like when we were making the face patch. We're going to get this piece out of the way. So we have a total of 4 stitches. We have 1, 2, 3, and 4. There's one more chain space that we need to work into. And we're going to put just 1 single crochet in that last chain space. That will bring us to a total of 5 single crochets. So now we're going to do a slip stitch into the first stitch that we originally did. And then we're going to do a chain 1. So now we're ready for round 2 of the eyes, off with an increase of 2 single crochets. So 1 and 2. We're going to do 1 single crochet in the next. And then we're going to do an increase of 2 single crochets into the next 2 stitches. So 1, 2, and then 1 more increase. So 1 and 2. After those 2 increases, we're going to do 1 single crochet. And in our last stitch, we're going to do 2 single crochets. So 1 and 2. So now we have 10 single crochets. We're going to slip stitch into the first stitch of that round and do a chain 1. Looks like this. And now we're going to do for round 3, we're going to start off with a increase. So into the same stitch that we did our slip stitch into, we're doing our increase 2 single crochets. In the next 3 stitches, we're going to do 1 single crochet. So 1, 2, and 3. Then we're going to do an increase in the next 2 stitches. So 1, 2. That's 1 increase, and then the next increase, 1 and 2. Those are 2 increases. After our 2 increases, we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3. And then in our last stitch, we're going to do 1 last increase. So 1 and 2. We're going to slip stitch into the first stitch of that round to finish off round 3. And then you're going to do a chain 1 and cut. This is what it looks like at the end. And then once we do our chain 1 and cut, you're going to make a second one. And this is what the 2 eyes look like for me. So far we have our sloth's head, his nose, his face patch, and his 2 eyes. And the next thing that we're going to get started on is the sloth's body. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get started on the body. This is our written pattern for the body. So starting off with the first part here, they have us doing that chain 3 with the 6 single crochets into the ring. I don't want to have a big hole on the bottom of my sloth's butt, so I'm going to switch this for doing a magic ring, and I'm going to do 6 single crochets into the magic ring and then follow the pattern as they have written here. So let's get started with our magic ring. So we grab our yarn, wrap it over our fingers, make an X at the top. We're going to go under the first, over the second, twist it clockwise, grab our working yarn, twist it counterclockwise, and slip through. Got our magic circle here. And so now I'm going to do 6 single crochets into the magic circle. So 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to bring this down, make sure it's nice and snug. So we're going to do a slip stitch and a chain 1. So slip stitch into the first stitch of this round, and then do a chain 1. So here we have our 6 single crochets. Now we're ready for round 2. Round 2 is 2 single crochets in each stitch. And at the end of round 2, we're going to have a total of 12 stitches. So we have 2 in one stitch, and 2 in one stitch. Get your handy dandy stitch marker. So we have done 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches. Place your stitch marker and continue with 2 single crochets in each stitch until you reach the end. Meet you guys back at the end. You should have 12 stitches. Okay, so I finished my 12 stitches. This space here in the middle kind of looks like it's a stitch. This is just our chain 1 space. So we're going to slip stitch into the first stitch of this round. Pull through and chain 1, ready for round 3. Round 3 is 1 single crochet in the next stitch and then an increase, and repeat that 6 times. So we're going to do a single crochet and then an increase of 2 in the next stitch. So 1, 2. We have 3 stitches so far. Place your stitch marker here and then continue with that sequence. You're going to do 1 single crochet and then an increase. Keep repeating that, 1 single crochet and then an increase of 2 single crochets in one stitch all the way around. At the end of round 3, you'll have 18 stitches. Alright, so I finished my 18 stitches. We're going to do our slip stitch and chain 1, getting ready for round 4. So slip stitch into the first stitch of that round and do our chain 1. Round 4 is a single crochet in the next 2 stitches and then an increase. So we're going to do a single crochet, and then 2 single crochets in one to make our increase. So 1 and 2. So we've done a total of 4 stitches. Place our stitch marker here at the beginning, and then we're going to do the same sequence. So 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets. Keep repeating this sequence of 1 single crochet and 2 stitches and then an increase in the next stitch all the way around. At the end of round 4, you're going to have 24 stitches. Alright, so we finished round 4. We're going to do our slip stitch and chain 1, getting ready for round 5. So slip stitch into the first stitch of that round, chain 1. Round 5, we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches and then an increase. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, and then an increase, 1, and 2. I have a total of 5 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Place your stitch marker here and continue that same sequence. You're going to do 3 single crochets and then an increase of 2 single crochets in 1 stitch. At the end of round 5, you're going to have 30 stitches. So I finished round 5. I have 30 stitches. We're going to do our slip stitch and chain 1, getting ready for round 6. So we'll do our slip stitch into the first stitch of round 5 and then do our chain 1. Round 6 is 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches and an increase in the next stitch. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we're going to do an increase in the next stitch. So 1 and 2. So now we have 6 stitches. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Place our stitch marker here in our first stitch. We're going to continue that same sequence. So 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches and then an increase into that 5th stitch. Keep repeating this all the way around. At the end of round 6, you're going to have 36 stitches. Alright, so we finish round 6. I have 36 stitches. We're going to do our slip stitch and chain 1, getting ready for round 7. So slip stitch into that first stitch of that round, chain 1, and for round 7 we're doing 1 single crochet in the next 5 stitches and then an increase. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then an increase, 1 and 2. So we have 7 stitches here. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Place your stitch marker here at the beginning. And then we're going to repeat that same sequence again. 1 single crochet in 5 stitches and then an increase of 2 single crochets into the 6th stitch. At the end of round 7 you should have 42 stitches. So I finished my round 7. We're going to do our slip stitch and chain 1, getting ready for round 8. So slip stitch and chain 1. Now round 8 through 11 is going to be the same. You're going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around, and in between each round you're going to do a slip stitch and a chain 1. So we'll start this off. We're just going to do a few single crochets, just how we've been doing. So you just go into the stitch and do your single crochets, making sure that you're placing your stitch marker here at the beginning of the round. When you're doing these rounds where they're the same a lot, it's really easy to lose track. So then when you reach your stitch marker here, make sure that you're doing your slip stitch into the first stitch of that round and then doing a chain 1 before you move on to the next round. Doing this in between will help make sure you keep all your rows in line. So you're going to do rounds 8 through 11. I'm going to do mine off camera. When I'm done, I'll meet you guys back when I have this portion of his body. You're going to continue to have 42 stitches all the way around. Halfway through these that you have done, make sure to take a break, count your stitches, and take your time. Make sure we finished our rounds 8 through 11. I already did my slip stitch and chain 1 for round 11. I still have 42 stitches all the way around. It's created a little bit of his bottom here. We're going to go ahead and move on to round 12. Round 12 is a single crochet in 5 stitches and then a decrease. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're going to do a decrease, and we're doing our show our decrease again, we're going to go into the next stitch, pull yarn over, pull through, into the next stitch, grab your working yarn and pull through, yarn over, pull through all three, and that's our decrease. So now we have 6 stitches here. We're going to place our stitch markers. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Place your stitch marker and then again repeat the same sequence. So this stitch right here, this is your decrease stitch. So into the next stitch, you're going to start your single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we're going to do a decrease. So go into your next stitch, pull through, into your next stitch, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. So repeat that same sequence, 5 single crochets and then a decrease. At the end of round 12, you'll have 36 stitches. All right, we finished with round 12. You should have 36 stitches at the end. Getting ready for round 13, we're going to do our slip stitch and chain 1. Round 13, we're going to just do 1 single crochet in each stitch around. While you're doing this, make sure you put your stitch marker in the beginning so you don't lose track. So we got 3 here, and we're going to place our stitch marker here. You're going to keep doing this all the way around. At the end, you'll have 36 stitches. So I'll meet you guys back. We finished round 13. We have 36 stitches. Let's do our slip stitch and chain 1, getting ready for round 14. Slip stitch, chain 1. So for round 14, we're doing 1 single crochet in the next 10 stitches and then a decrease. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So now we have our 10 single crochets. We're going to do a decrease. So into your next stitch, put through, yarn over, pull through, next stitch, put through, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3, and that's your decrease. You're going to repeat the same sequence again. You're going to do 10 single crochets and then a decrease into the 11th stitch. At the end of round 14, you're going to have 33 stitches. We finished with round 14. We have a total of 33 stitches. We're going to do our slip stitch into the first stitch of that round and our chain 1. Now we're ready for round 15. Round 15 is going to just be 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around. At the end of round 15, you're going to have 33 stitches. Don't forget to place your stitch marker at the beginning so you don't lose track. So we finish up round 15. We have 33 stitches. It was just a single crochet round. We're going to do our slip stitch into the first stitch of that round and our chain 1. Now we're ready for round 16. Round 16 is going to be 1 single crochet and 9 stitches and then a decrease. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then you're going to do a decrease. So we're going to do a decrease with these 2 stitches right here. We're going to do into the next stitch, pull through, into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. That's our decrease. Repeat that same sequence again with 9 single crochets and then 1 decrease. At the end of round 16, you're going to have 30 stitches. We finish round 16. I have 30 stitches. We're going to do our slip stitch and chain 1. So now we're ready for round 17, and round 17 is just 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around. So at the end of round 17, you're going to have 30 stitches. So I'll meet you guys back at the end. We finish round 17. I have 30 stitches. Let's do our slip stitch and chain 1. Now we're ready for round 18. Round 18 is going to be 1 single crochet in 8 stitches and then do a decrease. So we'll do the first one together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then do a decrease like we have been on the previous rows. So into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. That's our decrease. So we're going to do 8 single crochets and then a decrease. Keep repeating that until you go all the way around. At the end of round 18, you should have a total of 27 stitches. We finished our round 18, got 27 stitches. We're going to do a slip stitch, chain 1. Now we're going to do round 19, and round 19 is just 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around. At the end of round 19, you're going to have 27 stitches. We finished round 19. I have 27 stitches. It was just a single crochet round. We're going to do our slip stitch and chain 1, ready for round 20. There we go. Round 20 is going to be 7 single crochets and then a decrease. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we're going to do our decrease. Into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through. Oops, that was the wrong stitch. So for our decrease, we're going to go to our next stitch, insert, pull through, next stitch, insert, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3, and that's our decrease. We're going to repeat that same thing again, 7 single crochets and then a decrease. At the end of round 20, you're going to have 24 stitches. Alright, we finished round 20. I have 24 stitches. We're going to do our slip stitch and chain 1, getting ready for round 21, which is the last round of his body. So do our slip stitch, chain 1, and for round 21, we're going to do 6 single crochets and a decrease. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we're going to do our decrease. So into our next stitch, we're going to yarn over, pull through, next stitch, yarn over, pull through, and yarn over, pull through all 3. You're going to repeat that same sequence again. You're going to do 6 single crochets and then a decrease. At the end of round 21, you'll have a total of 21 stitches. I'll meet you guys back to fasten it off. So we finish our round 21, which is the last round of his body. To seal off this round, we're going to do a slip stitch and chain 1. You don't need much of a tail, so just a little bit, and you're going to go ahead and cut. This is what his body looks like, unstuffed. So let's go ahead and get ready to work on the next part. Alright, so we finished our body. We're going to get started on the arms. We're going to follow the pattern exactly as written here. I've already made one arm off camera. We're going to make the last arm together. We're going to get our light brown yarn and start off with a slip knot and a chain of 3. So I have my slip knot here, and we're going to do a chain of 3. So chain 1, chain 2, chain 3. We're going to slip stitch into the first chain. So we're going to insert into that first chain that we did. Grab your working yarn, and pull it all the way through. This has formed us a circle. We're going to do a chain 1. And we're going to be working 6 single crochets into the middle of the circle. When you're putting it in the middle of the circle, you don't want to put it in just through that chain 1 space. You want to make sure there's 2 loops around that hook, ensuring like this, how we have 2 loops on the hook to make sure that we're not just going through the chain space, we're actually going through the middle of the circle. So we're going to pull through, yarn over, pull through. That's 1 single crochet. We're going to do a total of 6 single crochets. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. This is what it should look like. We have our 6 single crochets. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now we're going to do a slip stitch into the first stitch of this round, this one here. Going into that first single crochet that we did. You're going to insert, pull through, and pull all the way through, chain 1. So we finished our round 1 with a total of 6 stitches, and now we're ready for round 2. And round 2 is going to be 1 single crochet and 2 stitches, and then an increase. So 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet, and then an increase. So 1 and 2. So far we have a total of 4 stitches, and we have 3 more stitches to work into. So you're going to do the same sequence again. So 1 crochet, 1 single crochet, and then an increase. 1 and 2. At the end of this round, we should have a total of 8 stitches. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So round 2, we're going to slip stitch into the first stitch of that round and do a chain 1. So we have our slip stitch and chain 1. We finished round 2, and now we're ready for round 3. Round 3 is 1 single crochet and 3 stitches, and then an increase. So we have 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to do an increase into the 4th stitch. So 1 and 2. We have a total of 5 stitches. We have 4 stitches left to work into. You're going to do the same sequence. 1 single crochet in 3 stitches, and then an increase of 2 single crochets in the 4th stitch. I'll meet you guys back to do the slip stitch and chain 1. So we finished round 3. We're going to do our slip stitch and our chain 1. This is what it's looking like for me. So I'd slip stitch into that first stitch of round 3 and then do a chain 1. Now we're ready for round 4. Rounds 4 through 15 is just 1 single crochet all the way around. So we're going to do round 4 together. So we're going to do 1 single crochet in each stitch. At the end of round 4, we're going to have 10 stitches. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And this gap that's right here, this is our chain 1 space here. So we have our 10 stitches, and we're transitioning between round 4 and 5. So we'll do our slip stitch and our chain 1. So continue with rounds 5 through 15, 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around, making sure to do your slip stitch and chain 1 at the end of in between each round. You should continue to have 10 stitches. At the end of round 15, you're going to go ahead and stuff the portion of the arm. I'll meet you guys back at the end of round 15. Alright, welcome back guys. So I finished my rounds 4 through 15 to make the length of his arm. And I'm going to place this stitch marker here so while we stuff the arm, it doesn't come undone. It's a bit of a small hole, but we'll figure it out. So grab your stuffing that was included in the kit. I grabbed like about this much. Not much, just like enough to fit in your hand here, just a little pinch. You can stuff it more or less, whatever you feel is better for your particular sloth. It's okay to make them unique. So I'm going to start by shoving it in there with my finger, and then I'm going to use the bottom end of the crochet hook to help me push it down once I get this started. So it's in here a little bit, and you can use the crochet hook to help it push it down, or you can just use your finger and just stuff it in there. Alright, so we got our stuffing in there. This is what he looks like. And we're going to go ahead and continue with the rest of the pattern. So for round 16, or from round 15, I already did my slip stitch and chain 1. So I'm ready for round 16. And at round 16, we're going to do 1 single crochet and 4 stitches and then a decrease. So we're going to do 1 single crochet, 2, 3, 4. Oops, mine fell out. 4. And then we're going to do a decrease. So we're going to put in, pull through, put in the next stitch, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. You're going to continue with 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches. I'll meet you guys back for the slip stitch and chain 1. At the end of round 16, you'll have 9 stitches. Alright, we finished round 16. We're going to go ahead and do our slip stitch and chain 1. So slip stitch into that first stitch of that round. And then do our chain 1. Now we're ready for round 17. Round 17 is going to be 3 single crochets and a decrease. So 1, 2, 3, and now we're going to do a decrease. So into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, next stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. And then the last 4 stitches, you're just going to do 1 single crochet in the last 4 stitches. I'll meet you guys back at the end of round 17. You're going to have 8 stitches. Alright, so we did our round 17. Do your slip stitch in your chain 1. Round 18, we're going to do 3 single crochets, a decrease, and then 3 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, and then a decrease. So 1 and 2. And then we do 1 single crochet in the last 3 stitches. At the end of round 18, you'll have 7 stitches. Okay, so we finished round 18. I did my slip stitch in chain 1. Round 19 is 3 single crochets, a decrease, and then 2 single crochets. So we'll start off with the 3. 1, 2, 3. Now we'll do our decrease. 1, 2. Pull through all 3. And then 1 single crochet in the last 2 stitches. At the end of round 19, you're going to have a total of 6 stitches. So this is my round 20. We already finished that. So we're going to do our final slip stitch into the first stitch of that round. And we're going to do a chain 1. And we're going to do a chain 1 and cut. We'll leave a little bit of a tail. I normally just pull it out about that much. We're going to do a chain 1 and cut. That way we can sew his arm to his body later. Make sure you make a second arm. I made my other one off camera. So this is my first arm and this is my second arm. This is the part that's going to be attached towards his body. So we're going to go ahead and get started on the legs. We're going to get started on the legs. I've already made one off camera. I'm going to make one together here with you guys. So we're going to get our light brown yarn and we're going to get started with a chain 3. So we're going to make our slip knot and we're going to do a chain of 3. So chain 1, 2, and 3. We're going to slip stitch into the first chain, pull through all the way, and now we're working into the middle of this circle. But first we're going to do a chain 1 and we're going to do 6 single crochets into the middle of the circle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Alright, so we did our 6 single crochets, and into the first stitch of this round we're doing our slip stitch and chain 1. And now we're ready for round 2. Round 2 is going to be 1 single crochet and 2 stitches and then an increase. This one's really similar to the arms, and the only thing that's different really is the amount of rows that you do. So that we have 2 single crochets and now we do an increase. So 1 and 2. We got 4 stitches. Place our stitch marker here at the beginning. Then we're going to do the same sequence again. So 1, 2, and then an increase of 2. So at the end of round 2, we're going to have a total of 8 stitches. This one right here, this is our chain space here. So we're going to slip stitch into the first stitch of this round. And then chain 1. Now we're ready for round 3. Round 3 is an increase and then a single crochet and 3 stitches. So we'll start with an increase. Do 1, 2, and then 1 single crochet and 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3. So we have 5 stitches. Place your stitch marker here at the beginning. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you're going to repeat the same sequence again. So you're going to do an increase, and then you're going to do 1 single crochet and 3 stitches. I'll meet you guys back for the slip stitch. At the end of round 3, you're going to have 10 stitches. Alright, so we finished round 3. I have 10 stitches. We're going to do our slip stitch and chain 1 so that we can get ready for round 4. So slip stitch into the first stitch of that round. Alright, we did our slip stitch and chain 1. So for rounds 4 through 11, it's going to be the same thing. You're just doing 1 single crochet in each stitch. So do round 4. We're going to have 1 single crochet in each stitch, and that's going to be a total of 10 single crochets. So 2 or 3. Get my stitch marker here. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have our 10 single crochets. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're going to do our slip stitch and chain 1. So slip stitch into the first stitch of that round and chain 1. So now we're ready for rounds 5, and we're going to do rounds 5 through 11 off camera, and making sure in between each single crochet round you need to do your slip stitch and your chain 1 to keep everything looking the same. Use your stitch marker when you're going around to make sure that you're not adding or losing any stitches while you're doing it. So you guys do rounds 5 through 11. I'll meet you guys back at the end. Alright, so I finished rounds 4 through 11 off camera. We're going to do our slip stitch for round 11. And do our slip stitch and chain 1. And we're going to, first we're going to grab some stuffing, and we're going to stuff some stuffing inside of here. Because then in the next round 12, we're going to start doing our decreases, and it's going to be really difficult to do any of the stuffing when we start doing those decreases. So we're going to grab a couple of pinches here. I grabbed about this much. We're going to mush it together, and I'm just going to use my finger to shove it in here. This is the other arm that I made off camera, and I want to, or his leg, his other leg I made off camera. And I want to make sure they look about the same. Round 12, we're going to do a start off with a decrease and then a single crochet in the next 3 stitches. So going into the same stitch as our slip stitch, that's our first one, go in, yarn over and pull through. Next stitch, yarn over, pull through, and this is going to be our decrease. Then we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3. So now we have a total of 4 stitches with our decrease. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to repeat that same sequence again. You're going to do a decrease and then 3 single crochets. We finished round 12, so we have 8 stitches total. We're going to do our slip stitch in our chain 1. Now we're going to get ready for round 13. We're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches, and then we're going to do a decrease, and then we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches. So do 1, 2, 3, and then we're doing a decrease. And with it being such a small hole and we're doing our decrease, just make sure you're not going through more than 1 stitch. So yarn over, pull through, next stitch, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn through, pull over through all 3. And then we're going to do 3 single crochets. So we did round 13. We're going to do our slip stitch in chain 1. For round 14, we're just going to do 1 single crochet in 5 stitches and then a decrease. At the end of round 14, you'll have 6 stitches. Alright, so we did round 14. At the end of round 14, you would have had 6 stitches. I already did my slip stitch in my chain 1. Ready for round 15, the last one, we're going to do a decrease. So pull through, yarn over, pull through, and then pull through all 3. That's our decrease, and then we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 4 stitches. Alright, so I did rounds 15. At the end of round 15, you have 5 stitches. It's honestly so small, but you can still see that there's a little hole there. You're going to do a slip stitch with a chain 1, and we're going to do a chain 1 and cut. So we want to leave a little bit of a tail so that we can sew it onto the body. And if you don't like the shape of your legs that you have, you want to reshape them now. These are the 2 legs that I made. So next thing that we're going to get started on is the claws. Alright, so we're getting started on the claws. This is the written pattern for the claws. It honestly goes pretty quick. This is the point where you figure out that he's a two-toed sloth instead of a 3-toed sloth. I already made 3 of his claws off camera, but we're going to do one of them here together. So we grab our white yarn. Once we have our white yarn, we're going to do a slip knot, and we're going to do a chain of 6. So chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Got my chain 6. And we're going to slip stitch into the second chain from the hook. So I'm going to count up 1, 2, 3, 4, and then slip stitch into this chain right here. Just like that. And then we're going to do slip stitch in the next 4 chains. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then after that they want us to do a chain 6 again. So chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We're going to do the same thing again. They want you to slip stitch into the second chain from the hook. So put into the second chain from the hook, do a slip stitch, and then do a slip stitch in the next 4 chains. So 2, 3, and 4. And then we're going to join them together here at the top with a slip stitch, and you do a chain 1 to secure. Alright, so this is what his claw looks like. Just a little, kind of looks like a V, like this. So you leave a little bit of a tail for sewing, and you're going to make a total of 4 claws. It's all my little, just a bunch of V's. And then we're going to go ahead and get started on the last part, which is his scarf. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get started with the last part, which is the scarf. You're going to get your blue yarn, and then you're going to make a slip knot, and you're going to start with a chain of 85. I'll meet you guys back at the end when I have 85 to get started on the rest of round 1. Alright, so we have our chain of 85 stitches, or 85. And continue on with the pattern. We're going to do a single crochet into the second chain from the hook. So into that second chain, you're going to put in, yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over, pull through 2. We got a single crochet there, and then we're going to do 1 single crochet in each chain all the way to the end. I'll meet you guys back at the end. You should have a total of 84 stitches. Alright, so I finished round 1, and it's just a bunch of single crochets on a really long chain. So they want us to do, at the end of the round 1, you should have a total of 84 single crochets. You're going to do a chain 1, and we're going to flip our work backwards like this. Instead of this front, we're going to turn our work. Turn it, and then they want you to place 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way back down to the other end, and then you're going to do a chain 1 and cut and fasten it off. You don't need to have a tail for sewing anything on, but you'll leave a little bit of a tail so we can weave it in so that it doesn't stick out at the end. Alright, so his finished scarf looks something like this. It's naturally going to do this when you're stitching it. It's going to twist up like this. You can leave it like this if you don't want it to be twisted and you would rather it look more straight. All you would need to do is take this yarn, you're going to go soak it and saturate it in some water, and then you're going to lay it out on a piece of foam or some type of board that you can pin into, and you're going to lay it out flat and stretch it out, and you're going to pin it down at the 2 ends and a few places in the middle to help it lay down straight. And then you're going to let it dry for about 24 hours, and then once you let it dry for 24 hours, it will be more of a flat straight scarf instead of a twisty one like that. Completely up to you. You're welcome to change it if you want. I'm going to leave mine twisted like this. I think it would suit him well. I'm not going to take the time to weave this in. I'm just going to cut it close to the knot, but not too close so that it doesn't come undone. I don't feel that you're going to be able to notice it when it's on him, but you're welcome to take the tapestry needle and then just weave the thread in and out through the stitches here so that it's hidden. So I cut mine here like this, and once it's on him, you're barely going to notice it. So we're going to make sure that we have everything now. So we have his scarf here. We have his head. We have his body. This is one of his legs. This is both of his legs. This is both of his arms. This is his face patch. all 4 of his claws. His 2 eye patches. That one's upside down. His 2 eye patches. And his nose. We also have this black and pink thread that we're going to use to add on his nose detail, and, or I believe it's his smile. It's a line underneath his nose. Got to kind of show it on the front of the box. And then the pink is going to be for his cheeks. Alright, so we got everything cleaned up and out of the way. We have the tapestry needle that's included in the kit. This one actually works pretty well. It slides in and out really easy, and it's flexible enough that you can do some tight turns. If you have any extra stitch markers of your own, grab some stitch markers. It will really help when you go to pin the face patch on. You want to make sure his face patch is straight. As for these 2 eyepieces here, I'm not going to worry about taking the time to weave in the ends because this piece is going to be flat against the head and you're not really going to see it. So I'm going to cut these 2 short so that there's not too much bulk behind the eye patch. That way it doesn't get in the way when we're sewing it down afterwards. Like that. So starting off here with the face, remembering I have this chain 1 space seam. You can put it on the front if you want. I'm going to put mine in the back. I don't want it to be on the front of his head. And I'm going to flatten the head like this in half and make sure that I have it centered with what part of his head that I want in the front. This is just going to make it easier for me to make sure that I got my face patch in the center. Okay, so the assembly instructions just tell you to use the photo as a guide. They don't give you any indication of exactly where to place the face patch. So we're going to look at it ourselves and we'll figure it out. I'm going to make sure that it's about center. And once I have it in the place that I would like it to be, and then I'm going to pin it down with a stitch marker on this side, a stitch marker on this side. If you really want to keep it in place, you can do 4 stitch markers, but I'm going to just do 2. Give me just a minute to get that in, I'll meet you guys back. Okay, so this is where I've placed his face patch. I still have it pushed forward. So we're going to go ahead and open the head back up because we don't want to be stitching through both layers of his face. So you're going to grab your thread piece, put it into your hook or needle, and then when I do this, the only thing that I do is I just go from here, and I want to make sure that my sewing point is under the project. So if I put it all the way out here and I go through these stitch here, you're going to see a white line showing that it was stitched on his face. I want it to be a little more discreet, so I'm going to go under the same round that it's sitting in and put it through the first stitch. And you're going to pull it all the way through, making sure it's tight. And then this way, you only see a little bit of a white line here, nothing too crazy. So you're going to take that. You can keep going around the outer edge like that if you want, or you can come through here to the next stitch and you're going to push it through. And you push it down into the, down through here, pull it through and weave it back up. So push it through there. And doing the stitch that way is gonna, instead of having the stitch go around the outer edge, it's gonna go over the middle stitch here. So now that we're in the inside of it, we're going to come up through the inside of the head into the next stitch right here, and you're going to pull it up, and you're just going to keep doing that same thing. So you can stitch it whichever way. You can either go around the outside or around this way. I'll meet you guys back once I have the face patch stitched on. Alright, so we got his face patch on. Pretty secure. Slightly straight, but unique. We're going to take these stitch markers out. And to make sure that this is secure, so I'm going to go into this next stitch here, shove it down into here, and when I push it in, I'm going to push it in through the inside and push it back out over here in the stitch behind it. Pull it up. I have a little bit of a loop here. I'm going to go through the middle of the loop, pulling my thread to secure, making sure that this is, and then I'm wanting to just shove the excess thread here back inside the middle of his head. You'll pull it through. Don't pull it too tight, just tight enough. And get this out of the way. And you can just simply take this piece, you can cut it if you want, or just shove it in his head. Because when we put some stuffing in his head, you're not going to be able to see it anyways. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to place his eye patches here on his face and use a stitch marker to place them down, and I'll meet you guys back. Alright, so I placed his eye patches here and his nose, and for his eye patch placement I did one edge of here right on the last round of the face patch. Same with this one over here, and then put his nose kind of here in the middle, and then we'll meet you back once I get these bits here stitched on. I'm going to do the same stitching process that I did for the other one. You can do the one where you're going around the outside of the stitch in a more of this manner, or you can do the one where I would just go in through one stitch, weave it in and out through the stitches so that it stays on the inside, so that you can't see these pieces sticking out on the outside. Either way that you can do it, however you can, whatever one that you like more. So you can go around the outside, stitch through the head on the inside, come back up and around like in a circular way, or just go weave it in and out of each of the stitch. Make sure you're only going through one layer of his head, and I'll meet you guys back. Alright, so I did his face patch, eye patch, and his nose. I still don't have any stuffing in here, just the extra bits of thread. So now I want to go ahead and shove his little eyeballs in. So, to be honest, you can place your eyes anywhere on the eye patch that you want. You could play, you know, make them super cross-eyed if you want. I'm going to put mine right about the center here. And it's, I don't know, at this point it's like 3 layers thick, so you're really going to have to shove it in there. Once you got that piece shoved in there, kind of flip it inside out. Push that fabric down, try and expose as much of that as you can. And really hard to hold this and show you. With the smaller piece here pointing down towards the plastic eye so that you can push it down and secure them in place. Like this. And then really push it down. Snap it down a couple of times, and then it will look like that. Flip it back inside out. And if you feel that it's pushed in too far, you can push the on the inside, you can push the pointy black bit out a little bit more so that it doesn't look like his eye is sunken in. Adorable. So we're going to go ahead and do that for the other eye. I got a mess going on in there. I'm going to try and put this one in about the same spot as his other one. There's a little... maybe more down here. And again, shove it in, flip it inside out, really push it into the fabric. Grab our little securing piece, push it down, and push it down until it snaps. Nice and snaps. So you see how it kind of sinks in there a little bit? I'm just going to push it out so that it's not sunken in. And those are his little eyes. It will look better. You can shape the head more once you add some stuffing. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to just take your black thread, and you're going to you really don't need a lot, just a little bit, because they're not putting any on his nose. It's just a tiny little piece to indicate his mouth underneath his nose. So we're going to take a piece, it's probably, I'm going to do one that's about this long, not that long. We're going to place it on here. Alright, so I got his eyes on, and we're going to go ahead and stitch on his little black marking for his mouth. I'm not sure if they're marking his mouth or just, I don't know, some added detail. So I'm going to go in through the inside of his face, and I'm going to try and get it to come through the same spot where this one is coming out for me. You're going to pull it up through, making sure to leave some inside the head. I'm going to hold this black piece of thread inside so it doesn't fall out, pulling off the excess here, and I want to cover up this little brown piece that I got sticking out here, so I'm going to make his smile crooked, a little slanted, you know. He's not Simon anymore, he's Ernesto. And if you want it to be a little bit thicker, you can do it more than once. And pull it up through. Don't pull it too hard so that it doesn't pull it all the way out. And then you can just leave your excess thread inside of his head. Right like that. See? Adorable. Alright, so the last detail on his face is his pink cheeks. You know, when you look at it on the box, they have it right underneath his eye patches. I find it really hard to see. You can barely see whatever's going on there. I'm going to put his a little lower. Make him look a little cuter. So if you want to place it right here under his eye patch, you can. I'm going to replace one right here on the edge and right here on the edge. So going up through the center again, or in the inside like we did last time. And when you pull it, make sure you leave a little bit of slack here on the inside so that you don't pull it all the way out. Hold the pink down with your finger just to make sure until you get it in place. And we're going to pull it back through. Like that. If you want it to be thicker, just go over it one more time. And then once you do this side, you're just going to come up over on this side and then do the same thing. And you'll just do that from the inside here. And you can leave the excess thread in the middle. So I'll meet you guys back once I get done with this. Okay, so I stuffed the head. Got it the shape that I want. And I also went ahead and stuffed the body, making sure that it can sit down. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take all his arms and legs, and we're going to stitch his claws on. I'm going to show you one of them, and I'm going to basically do the same thing for all of them. So I'm going to grab one of his claws. For the tail piece that we had on here, I just cut it short. I'm not going to see it once you have it stitched together. So I'm going to, if you want his fingers to stick out like this, you can just stitch it on there like this. Once I fold this in half, I'm going to use this thread and I'm going to stitch it onto this open piece here, and we're going to go in the center, up and over the side, and then stitch it together. I'll show you guys that in just a minute. So we'll get this on here. And to get it started, so this is one of his arms. I'm going to go in through the center hole that we had. Now if you're worried about the seam, you just want to place it in a different way. So put it up through the center. Get his claw facing the way that you want it to. Once it's doing that, I'm gonna go through the top piece here because I want his claw to stay folded together so it doesn't look like a V sticking out of his hand. Once you got it on there, we're going to just go over his claw here. Once we go over the top, I'm going to push it through, back through the center and through the middle of his claw at the top point where we anchored it. And then I'm going to pull it down tight. I'm going to keep doing that until I'm satisfied with the way it looks. I'm going to do that in the same concept to both the two legs and his other arm. I'll meet you guys back before I get ready to assemble everything together. Alright, so I finished sewing on all his claws, and the next thing that I'm going to do is grab his body and his head, and you're going to line up the stitches. So whatever part of his body you want in the front, I don't want this seam in the front, and I don't really like this seam here, so we're going to try and center them up. You're going to line up the amount of stitches that are on his head with the body, and then you're just simply going to do, you're going to take it in here, put your needle here, and you're going to pull it up, and you're going to go through a stitch and then through a top stitch of the same one, and then you're going to pull it through, and you're just going to do that all the way around till your head is secure. Once your head is secure, you would just pull your thread and find an available stitch to kind of just shove your thing into, push it all the way through, and pull your excess thread through the back of his head. So I'm going to do this off camera, and I'll meet you guys back before we get started on the arms. Alright, so this is where I got to so far. I went ahead and I stitched on one of his legs, one of his arms. I added an extra bit of stuffing here in the middle between his neck and his head to make sure he's not a bobblehead. I don't want it wobbling around and everything. So I'm going to cut these pieces off in a minute or two. So to do the legs, I kind of placed them where I thought was necessary. The only part the assembly instruction actually has a form of instruction here is it's saying that to hold the legs straight out and sew in place on the lower body between round 8 and 9. That's about the only instructions that that assembly thing has. So if you count here from your stitches up until you get to between row 8 and 9, you would be able to place it exactly where the instructions is saying to place it. I kind of take it and took his leg, curved this one this way because it's going on his left side. So then you're going to place it on him like that. And when you're stitching it on the side, you're stitching it flat and you're just going in through his leg, in through his body, out through a stitch, back over and through. So when you're stitching it on, you would come through here, through a stitch of his body, and pull the thread out and through, and you would just do the same thing until it's secure the way you wanted. I put a couple of threads here in between his leg and his body so that he's not super spread out. You can angle it in any way and stitch it down. The arm here is attached in a similar way. It's attached right here on the flattest part here, where you can just flatten it and lay it against the side, and then you're able to stitch it here. And if you want it to be placed in front of them this way, maybe you wanted to place it up, you can. So you're going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll meet you guys back when I'm finished and we'll put on his scarf together. Alright, so I finished stitching on the arms and the legs. Everything's on. It's got all his claws, facial features, and everything. The arms are pretty free moving. Make him do some wacky things. I'm just going to tuck him here by his legs so that he doesn't run off. He's a little top heavy. That's okay. So we're going to grab our scarf and we're going to dress him up like he's going out on a winter walk. And you can wrap it around him and do a couple of different styles. And just alright, so this is him all stitched up. I mean, to be honest, with his cute little pink cheeks, it kind of makes him look a little girly, but he's still super cute. I'm not going to call mine Simon. He's definitely going to be Ernesto now. And we're going to place his scarf on. So I'm going to do how much I want hanging down. I'm going to take the scarf, wrap it around him once, and bring it back this way. You can change how you want the scarf to sit. You can sit it here like this. They have it worn around like this, and then they put it through and kind of tie it on to make it stay so it's not so long. And there you go. Simon the Sloth is super cute. Hope you guys enjoyed this crochet kit. Overall, this is one of my more favorite ones. This one came out really good. The teddy bear one is still my favorite, but this one came out really good. If you guys have any other kits that you want me to do or things, just put them down in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoy, and we'll see you guys next week.